Greetings, knowledge seekers, the Force is with you. Today we're going to be checking out Sabine Wren's lightsaber. This one is called the Wren replica from NEOSABERS with the Xeno 3 V3 board inside. So quick story behind Sabine's lightsaber. It's actually originally Ezra Bridger's second lightsaber that was introduced in the Rebels animated series. Ezra gave it to Sabine Wren, and the first time we see it in live action is in the Ahsoka series. When we first see the saber, we can see the emitter slightly modified with two small Kyle Kestis style shrouds. You think Sabine used Beskar for the shrouds? Let us know in the comments below. Now this hilt I have here has the XenoPixel V3 soundboard for $349, but it's also available in Profi 2.2 for $429. And for $30 more, it can come weathered. And off the bat, one of the coolest features of this lightsaber is that you can revert it back to Ezra's. So it's actually two characters in one lightsaber. Which is probably how lightsaber wholesalers got this out to market so fast, even before Disney did. At the time of recording this video, the Ahsoka series is just on its last episode. They already had the Ezra saber as a template, and they just figured out how to add the two shrouds and manufacture them. I want to thank NEOSABERS for sending this out so I can have you guys check it out in this demo. Remember, you can get 10% off using my discount code PRIONJONI, not just on this saber, but any lightsaber from NEOSABERS. So let's take a look at what it comes with. So we have the hilt right here. Look at that. As always, you have your instruction manual. Skimming through it, it looks like the instructions are for the XenoPixel and Xeno RGB. I'm guessing they'll have a different manual if you get the Profi. There are two Ziplocs of tools and screws. There's actually two Allen keys in here of different sizes and a variety of different sizes of set screws, including two extra long ones, as well as a thumb screw, which I haven't figured out what it's for. You have your USB Type-C to A charging cable. Friendly reminder, never charge your saber with a charger that exceeds 5 volts or you will fry your board. And it also comes with a USB Type-A micro SD card reader for customizing your sound fonts. And instead of a blade plug, it comes with a film-accurate screw-on display emitter. And finally, it has a 36-inch polycarbonate dual-grade pixel blade. I did notice it doesn't come with a display stand, but no worries since I typically display my hilts upright. Now, one of the things Finding the Force pointed out in his review video is how insanely film accurate, especially when compared to the scene where Hu Yang holds the hilt right out. You can see they hit the majority of the design just right. On the show, it's slightly weathered, but if you want something closer, the weathered version is available. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but the emitter shrouds on screen might be a little longer, but there could also be a visual illusion made by the pixel emitter. Because on here, the emitter is a lot larger, so it can make the shrouds look a lot smaller. Now, the set screws that hold the shrouds are on the original. And the only inconsistencies are the holes on the sides of the control box. This greebly design right here underneath the control box, the speaker cutout on the pommel, and the two pairs of screws on the pommel. So right here and right here. Overall, I would give this a 90% accurate design, especially when you are using the display emitter. It's made with solid frost aluminum. It has a nice texture on the black grip portion and has a metal sleeve right here, which your control box and control buttons are attached to. The pommel feels nice, it's nice and rounded, and it's perfectly machined to screw on so that the triangle lines up with the control buttons. Now the controls are relatively low profile. They do protrude out by a little bit, but they are a lot lower compared to original trilogy lightsabers. But they will be facing towards your body when you decide to cosplay with it. Now, if you're worried about accidentally turning it on during cosplay, there is a kill switch, which we'll show you in a bit. But just be aware that there are protruding buttons that will be facing your hip. Now, moving towards the emitter. This is a thin neck lightsaber, similar to Obi-Wan's and Luke's second lightsaber. They nailed every detail, including the copper ring. Above it, we have the emitter portion with the two offset shrouds as modified by Sabine. The longer shroud lines up with the control buttons. It's reminiscent of Cal Kestis' lightsaber, but much smaller. The display emitter gives you a screen-accurate version of the emitter, which for the most part is hidden underneath the shroud. It has that little medical syringe look. But the thing I love about it is similar to my TXQ Luke Skywalker hilt, it makes removing the blade much easier. So instead of fiddling with the set screws when you're removing the blade, you just twist off and replace the emitter. So you can leave the blade on the emitter and just switch it with the display one. So if you're out cosplaying, you don't have to worry about losing your set screws. Now speaking of set screws, as I said earlier, you can convert this lightsaber back to Ezra Bridger's simply by removing the shrouds. That's what the other Allen key is for. You can do this both on the pixel emitter as well as the display emitter. See, check that out. Now we have Ezra's lightsaber, just like that. Looks pretty cool even with just one shroud, the shorter shroud on the opposite end of the controls. Now before we move on to the electronics, if you find value from this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell. That'll help me out on the YouTube algorithm so I can bring more lightsaber videos to you. Now I actually found what seemed to be 3 buttons, but only 2 work. The control box does seem to be able to push down, but I haven't discovered if it does anything. When I removed the pommel and the core, I looked inside and it doesn't seem to go anywhere. So it might just be a dead button. The red dial over here actually also has a button right above it, which essentially functions the same on a XenoPixel board. You can either flip the dial or click the top. So all your XenoPixel single button functions are all done with the dial or the button. They do exactly the same thing. Before we put the blade on, when you open the pommel, the core easily will slide out. And that's because it's a quick release style core. It even connects to the upper board with a XenoPixel blade style connector, the ones with the pins on one side and circular on the other. This way, when you're sliding it in, you don't have to rotate to orient the core. It also makes charging easy with the USB Type-C plug, which is right here below the battery. Or you can just simply replace the battery with a fresh one. This also gives you really easy access to the SD card for loading sound fonts. And it also has a kill switch, an on and off kill switch, which helps prevent corrupting your SD card and also making sure your saber is off. Really convenient for those times where your saber won't shut up and you can't remember your button combination. And for testing your sound fonts and presets, the core does have its own button right below the standby LED and some LEDs that mimic the blade, so you can test without the need to reassemble the entire hilt. Let me show you what I mean. So if I turn this on, you have LEDs on the connector piece and you have LEDs right on the side that mimic the blade. Let me do blaster deflect. This is definitely the most convenient XenoPixel core I have ever seen. And to make things even easier, the XenoPixel version 3 that's in here can be controlled by your mobile device via Bluetooth. So let's put this back together. Now let's pop the blade on. So I've covered the XenoPixel board before, so I'm not going to deep dive. In a nutshell, for every sound font, there is a standard set of blade ignitions and blade styles, which you can choose from. So I did a review on the XenoPixel version 3 when it first came out. So as far as the controls go, I'll leave a link right here if you want to see that video. But by having the Xeno configuration app on iOS or Android, you can quickly change your colors, sound font, blade ignition, blade styles, and volume in a way that is much easier than just using the buttons. Let's turn on the saber. Let's adjust the volume.
Volume level 65%.
Okay, font select. Okay, let's bring this back to 1. Now you can do other things like changing your lockup light effect, blaster light effect, force light effect, drag light effect, and flash on clash, or just change your color, use the color wheel. Let's leave it back to green. Now overall, it looks really good. Looks almost like it's film ready. Feels pretty good. It's a 36-inch blade, so it's pretty long, so it's a little blade heavy. Hilt doesn't feel overweight. With the 36-inch blade, the two best places I found to grip it is either right on the emitter itself, but I would imagine with a 32, you can put your hand right where the thin neck is, like this. But you do have to try to avoid touching the buttons because it's really easy to trigger them. Now let's take this outside and try it out. All right, so pretty much every time I spin a 36-inch blade, I always feel like, I wish I had a 32. I find myself gripping the shrouds and the emitter to balance it, and I tend to have less speed with a 36 and less space because I could accidentally swipe the ground when I have a 36. So I would prefer this with a 32. But as a 36, this is a really beefy looking lightsaber. And it's not that heavy of a hilt, so it has decent momentum. While it's pretty stable to spin, it's definitely more of a collector or cosplay piece. Like I said earlier, it's really easy to touch the dial and the button. Now, if you want to see how this hilt compares to the previous Ezra Bridger version, which I actually don't have over here, I recommend checking out Finding the Forces review on the saber on their channel over here. And if you want to see my recap of the best vacation of my life at the recently decommissioned Galactic Star Cruiser, follow this video right here. May the stars light your way and the Force be with you always.